you, Peter, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
On our next episode of Be The Drop. Now, as an introduction, I always ask my guests to bring in an item of significance, and that's something that connects them and their community. So I see you've brought yours, and I'd love you to tell us about that and how it connects you.
Well, I make posters. So it says Ghana land, real Australians seek welcome. It's the third and final segment of a poster project I started a couple of years ago. Started with the phrase real Australians say welcome. I think if you put those two statements together, that real Australians say welcome and real Australians seek welcome, it actually reveals that Australian identity is it's actually a lot more complex than what we might think. The very first poster, real Australians say welcome. It was inspired by the Australian national anthem, because there's a line in the national anthem that says, "For those who come across the seas with boundless plains to share, with courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair." So I thought that's actually a really interesting thing to have in any national anthem. The part which really struck me was, "With courage let us all combine." And what it suggests is that overcoming fear it takes courage. It's a hard thing to be able to go, well, these people seem really different. You need to have courage to overcome it, and it gets left out of the rhetoric. The rhetoric is always just like, love multiculturalism. If you don't, then you're racist, and it just gets simplified, and in a way, my posters are very sort of simplistic, and I always thought it was a way of trying to parody just how dumb the debate can get. So yeah.
Sensational. Now, so you've created these beautiful posters, and I know that you've put them around many places across Australia. From this action and this project, what sort of community have you built? Who is this community?
The community that I'm trying to build are not necessarily people that just agree with me. I also want people that disagree with my points of view involved as well, and that's what makes street art and public space so terrific. It's an ancient forum. It's the place where all people get together and meet and communicate, and so that's what I love about street art.
Yeah, it brings back the ancient Greeks amphitheatre sort of style.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
Bringing in public conversation. So you mentioned that you've been doing street art for a while. How long has it then taken to build this community? You've got quite an active and a large community now. What sort of time frame has it taken?
I think it's been something like 8 years or so that I've been making street art in various forms. I went away to study in Glasgow for a year. And when you go overseas, you become Australian. People go, "Oh, he's Peter the Australian guy." And then you think, "Oh, what does it actually mean to be Australian?" You start to think about what values you agree with or which ones you don't. And that's when I sort of thought, well, if that's going to be imposed upon you, then you should sort of own it and have something to say about it. And so that's when the art sort of became more political. Then I sort of came back here and started the project a lot more.
That brings us to the end of our questions. But when I conclude an interview, I always ask my guests to finish with their Be The Drop tip. And that's your top communication tip. So Peter, could you please share with us your Be The Drop tip?
And I'd like to sort of give advice which is slightly unconventional, but is to listen to people's criticism. Because usually people will say, just know yourself and just do exactly what you think. Well, that's nonsense, and everyone knows that. Because a lot of the time you have an idea about how the world is and you're wrong, or at least it's not quite right. And so you need to keep learning, and the only way you can do that is by listening to the people that strongly disagree with you. Now, that doesn't mean sort of crumble whenever someone disagrees with you, but at least listen and figure out what it is that is motivating them to, in my case, really hate what it is that I'm doing. So I do. I really pay attention, and I sort of like receiving criticism of that sort, because a lot of time it's very helpful. Because I have a lot of sympathy for people that really disagree with me. Like I feel like my true opinions are much more in the middle than most people would probably presume. So and if you're just accepting people patting you on the back all the time, you're not evolving, you're not learning, you're just sort of staying still, creating a little bubble around yourself. So yeah, listen to the haters is my advice.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining me, and thank you everyone for having us here at the Elephant and British.